Ooh, it is time to talk about the thing that almost made me puke on my piercer in front of my roommate and an ex-boyfriend. Also the thing that almost made me rip out my frickin' nipple. But also the thing that I love and probably will never get rid of and that I'm so glad that I got, and that is my nipple piercings. And I know there's a lot of questions surrounding it, kind of like the pros and cons and why someone decides to get it. So I made a video for you because not everybody's okay with talking about their nipples, and well, I talk about everything here. Hello crazy fam, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Tori, and if you don't watch my vlogs, you might not know that I have my nipples pierced, and I'm not going to show you them for obvious reasons, but I am going to talk about kind of like the pros and cons of them now that I've actually had them. I watched so many videos, read so many articles, and they didn't talk about the things that I realized once I actually had them and lived with them on a daily basis. I've had them for what? 2-3 years now, around there, so they're definitely past the point of like the healing stage, though we'll go into that. That's a whole nother deal. And then I also want to talk about how it felt to actually get it pierced, what my experience was like, because I know some people that have them have never gotten other piercings, so I feel like they didn't give the good comparison of it. But I have my cartilage here, I have an industrial bar here, I have piercings, and I know what it's like, especially with the industrial bars, because it's pierced with a larger gauge, and that kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to be like for the nipple piercings. You can also get nipple piercings in different sizes. I did get the larger size because I feel like the smaller size, I was terrified that my nipple was just going to eat it, so I got the same size that is in my cartilages, and those are a larger gauge than the traditional earring or the traditional like midway piercing. And then I'm also going to talk about the reasons why I specifically decided to get it, because I think everybody has a reason behind why they get every piercing or tattoo or whatever body modification they choose to get. So I'm going to kind of talk about mine and see if that's something that you're interested in. Before we get into everything, I got a little bit closer here to say that yes, I do have something going on with my eye, so I am sorry if that bothers you while I am filming. I totally forget the name of it, but it happens to me sometimes. I just wake up with them and basically it's just like a boo-boo on my eye type of thing. But I couldn't wait to film because sometimes they last for a couple weeks. So I'm here filming with crazy monster zombie eyes. And before we get into everything, I'd really appreciate you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below to join the crazy fam if you haven't already. I do post a new sit down video every single Wednesday, and I'm going to start posting my vlogs on here again, so I post those on Mondays and Fridays. And let's get right into the video. Now, there are many pros to getting nipple piercings done. The list is endlessly long, and a lot of times it's usually personal to the person and why they decide to get them done. But I am going to save why I decided to get them done for the end and kind of go over the pros in more of a general sense. Now, I'm not going to go over any of the kinky reasons that you can probably think of when it comes to the pros of nipple piercings. We won't discuss that, but the thing I do think that is really important to mention is that I feel like personally the nipple piercing isn't going to hurt that bad for you. Now, depending on if you have other nipple piercings, depending on if you have other piercings in general, where you have them on your body and how much those hurt compared to a nipple piercing depends on how much of an idea like basis you can get on the pain. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, so it didn't hurt bad at all. But if you want a comparison to other piercings, I think it's pretty similar pain-wise to a regular cartilage piercing at a higher gauge. So when it comes to nipple piercings, you can get different sizes, which I will talk about probably more later in the video. But the main thing is if you got the larger gauge, which is a, what is it, 16, 18, 16, 14? Frick. I'm like forgetting sizes of gauges at the moment, but if you have the larger, thicker piercing in the cartilage and you got pierced with that size, you didn't stretch it, then I would say it's pretty similar to the nipple piercing of the same size. I would say the pain level is pretty similar, but the feeling is completely different. And I would say that is a major, major pro for the piercing because I expected, since it is a more intimate area, to be a way, way more painful piercing than it was. Now, similarly to the piercing not being as painful, the recovery was also a lot quicker than I expected, because a lot of people talk about nipple piercings as being like a really, really long recovery time, and I do understand where that like perspective comes from, and I'll talk about that more in the con side of things. But as for the literal like recovery, like what I consider recovery, where it's like you can sleep on it without it being sore, it's not bleeding, it's not tender, that was really quick. It did not take long at all before I was sleeping on them and touching them without it being like a painful thing. So I would definitely consider that a huge pro, because I've heard like horror stories about how long it takes for the tongue to, you know, heal and not feel like or you can't drink milk and all that. So I would say way, if you're considering the nipple piercing, it's not a long recovery period. It does have its con sides of the recovery and dealing with the piercing and maintenance, but as for the pain aspects, it was pretty gosh darn quick. But I can't tell you how you will be personally, because piercings and tattoos, if you have any, you know that it's a little bit different for every person, and I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but I found that the actual pain aspect of it went away pretty quickly. Now I think it's time to talk about the more fun pro aspects of it, because this doesn't really make you want to get the piercing like, oh, it doesn't hurt that bad, or oh, the recovery time's not that good. That doesn't mean you want to get it. Like, there's plenty of things that aren't that painful that I'm not about to go spend my money on and go do. But I decided to get this done because the huge thing for me is that actually the visibility aspect of it. It's like a jewelry piece that comes with you all the time. And a huge one is definitely when you are topless. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more present, especially for males, when you get to take advantage of being topless a lot more than we do. It's always going to be visible jewelry on you. It's not something that you take on and off. It's always going to be there, just like cartilage earrings are always going to be an accessory there that I just love to be a body modification that stays with me all the time. And the big thing is, as a female, I don't wear a bra, so the peek through shirts is really a big benefit for me, because I just like that little oomph. Like, if you've ever seen in like old Friends episodes where, what's her name? Oh, the main character that looks great even now that she's older. Point is, you probably know who I'm thinking of. Not Phoebe, Rachel. Rachel on Friends, if you ever noticed, a lot of times in the season she's not wearing a bra and her nipples are like very present, and I actually love that look. But my nipples are never constantly that present or hard or visible, so the nipple piercing is the next best thing, because you see them all the time, and it's almost like seeing the nipple and giving that little fashion statement that I like in a top. You might not want that personally, and if you don't, then maybe wear a bra or don't get your nipples pierced. But I feel like a lot of people that want to get them done love that aspect of it, love the visibility, and I'm here to tell you that yes, it is very visible. It's not something that's usually going to hide, like, unless you have like a weird shaped nipple or something. Most likely it's going to be peeking through your shirts at all times, and I consider that a huge pro, and I love having that present. But there's so many other personal aspects of why I love the piercing, but there is one more that I find more of a general one that I feel like is a pro for a lot of people that want to get this specific piercing, and that is feeling more comfortable topless. It kind of adds something there that's beyond your body. It's not just your body that's on display, it's your jewelry, it's your accessories, it's your modifications that are there that kind of add something to look at besides maybe something that you are insecure about. Whether it's, you know, your stomach, or it's the size of your boobs, or whatever it is a distraction, and I find it to be a good distraction that helps maybe give you that little confidence boost. Like, oh, someone's gonna be looking at that before they look at this, or they'll look at that and like it'll take away from something else. Whatever it is, I feel like it is a great addition to what people are looking at when you are topless, and it makes me feel a heck of a lot comfortable personally. Even though there was a lot of positives to having the nipple piercings, and I'll probably never get rid of them, at least not for a long time, there are some cons to it. And before I talk about the cons, I kind of want to talk about how it felt to get it pierced, because that kind of plays a con part into it, but not too much, because it wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be, or as much as people thought it was going to be for me. So the backstory is, I went to a piercer in downtown LA. I walked like really far with my roommate and my boyfriend at the time, and I just decided to get my nipples pierced. They didn't have like the back room or the upstairs type of thing that they normally do, because it was being like worked on. So they had they pierced my nipples on like the main floor, like where everybody else is type of thing, just had me turn the other direction, which I was totally fine with and comfortable with. And I go to get them pierced, and the one thing that caught me off guard so much was that, one, it didn't hurt that bad. It didn't hurt as much as my industrial bar. My industrial bar actually hurt more than my nipples did. But what caught me off guard is afterwards, oh my goodness, I was so lightheaded. I felt like I was about to puke on my piercer or on the piercing floor in front of my boyfriend, in front of my roommate, and I really obviously didn't want to puke in front of them for many reasons, and I didn't want to puke in the shop and blah. And the guy is like, it's actually an adrenaline thing. So he gave me soda and tried to bring my blood sugar up, because basically it's like, you got this adrenaline rush, like your body was preparing for what it thought the nipple piercings were gonna feel like. It just got such an adrenaline rush, and then your blood sugar just dropped. So he's like, sit here, relax, don't stand up, drink this soda, it'll get your sugar levels back up. And after a little while, I did feel a lot better, but I had never felt that way after a piercing. I know I haven't gotten anything that's as serious as like a nipple piercing or a belly button or anything like that. I just have my ears done. But I still was not expecting that at all. I wouldn't say that's per se a con, because the fact that it wasn't that painful, but I wanted to go with the backstory of what it felt like to get it actually pierced for me personally. I would say my industrial bar hurt more, but most of the cons came afterwards. I would say the fact that I am a very low maintenance type of want person when it comes to any body modification. I don't want to have to do much. I want it to be there, done, and me have to barely do anything with it, which is why, if you've noticed, like I have my piercings up here, but I never, hardly ever to never wear piercings down there. I still have the bottom holes that are good. My holes above there, I believe, are closed. I just don't bother with them because it felt like way too much maintenance. It felt like I was always cleaning them. The jewelry always looked grimy. I always was doing the thing where I was popping out the goo, and it was disgusting to me. Like, normally, like, I got like hair. As for like cartilage piercings in my industrial bar, it wasn't that much maintenance, so I decided to keep them in because I hardly ever to never need to clean them. I probably still need to clean them more than I do because sometimes they're looking a little grimy. I get a lot of, what you can call it, like dry, dead skin around it sometimes. And just like you would like in your ear in the crevice. But for the nipple piercings, even though I do want to keep them, they are a very, very, very high maintenance piercing in my opinion. It feels like you are always needing to clean them, that you are always dealing with constant rejection. So if you have any piercings before, there's a term called like your piercing rejecting itself. And some people, all their piercings reject. Like even the earring here, it'll reject all the time. Your body will be trying to get rid of it. It'll either like close up around it, or it'll do all these different things. You can look up how piercing rejections work. But for me personally, none of my piercings really ever did much rejection. But my nipple piercings feel like a constant rejection. Like, come on, swipe with me on Bumble. Don't keep rejecting me. I'm just kidding. That's actually really not a problem. But point is, for the nipple piercings, it is. It feels like it'll go from being completely healed and happy to rejecting itself again. And for me personally, that means like it's like a bubble around my piercing that's like filled with the same stuff similar to what your ear would be, or it's like bleeding, or it's like the skin's being weird. Whatever is going on, it feels like it's constantly rejecting itself. And part of that might be in play with this is a piercing that you need to clean on a daily basis. All the time, you need to clean this piercing for it to be healthy and happy. And I'm always not so good about cleaning it, and that's probably plays a part into why mine is constantly rejecting it, but it will be different for everybody. But from everybody I have heard, this is not a low maintenance piercing. This is not something you can just leave there and not bother with, or like a tattoo where once it's healed, it's good. It's one of those things that's going to be a constant maintenance process, but it was worth it to me. So even though I say it's a con, I also think it's a worth it con for me, but you have to decide if it's worth it for you. Your body will be probably a little bit different with it. But for me, it's just one of those things that it's worth it to me, but you have to keep it in mind because it is not a low maintenance in any way, shape, or form. And then the other con to it is that obviously it is sticking out. It gets caught on things. And I don't wear bras anymore, but it used to get caught in bras all the time. Like it would get caught on the line right here, like my nipple piercing would like pull, or it gets caught on shirts. And like the worst experiences I talked about slightly in the beginning is that it gets caught on things you wouldn't per se expect. So this happened a little bit after having my piercing. I think I've gotten better with it now that I've had it longer and I'm more aware of it sticking out. It's like once you get your hair cut and you go to grab your hair even though it's not there anymore, and after a while you stop grabbing for the hair that isn't there anymore. And similar to the nipple piercing, where once you get used to it more, you bump into it less, it gets caught on less things, but it still happens. It still happens on a regular basis. I still get it caught in things, but like I said, the worst experience I ever had was there was these two walls. So there was a door frame right here, and then there was a wall right here, and in between was a cat litter box. And I was bending down and I was cleaning the litter box. Don't ask me why I was cleaning a litter box topless. I was just getting it done, okay? And I wasn't wearing a shirt. It happens. And the point is, I went to go lift up one time, and my nipple piercing literally caught on the door frame, and it caught on the wood, and it pulled and actually ripped a piece of the wood frame out with my nipple piercing. And oh my goodness, I have never felt so much pain in my whole entire life. I've probably never had so much fear in my whole entire life. I was like so afraid to look down at my own nipple because I was wondering if it was still fully there. It terrified me. I'm pretty sure most of the pain was just the pain of fear running through my brain because it just like ripped so hard, and I was like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, do I have a nipple anymore? And the point is, it did. It was fine. It didn't rip out. It bled like a mother fudger, but it was fine. It healed again. It was good, but it was still terrifying. And that's kind of like the con side of things, is this thing does get caught on things, and it does bring an extra like fear or safety concern to it when you have something sticking out from your body. Definitely worth it. Definitely hands down worth it, but it's something to keep in mind, especially if you're one of those people that wears a lot of those like lacy bras or things that would get caught on more easily, because that might not be something you want to deal with on a regular daily basis. But for me, I don't wear bras, and regular bras usually didn't get caught that much. A lot of these cons, like I said, really are just worth it to me, and I think will be worth it to a lot of people, but I want to make sure you're aware of them because a lot of them are things I didn't hear people talk about. And another one is just the adjustment factor of it. Especially if you don't wear a bra, wearing nipple piercings is a constant adjustment because this isn't something you can just take off and wear on days you want to wear it. Like, you have to wear these all the time. So if you're not wearing a bra, you have to get used to seeing your nipple piercings in basically every single top. And it was something that I definitely had to get adjusted to, especially in a business setting. It can be a little bit more difficult to be professional where your nipple piercings are showing. And I found ways just to kind of wear certain outfits or wear a jacket over it certain times or a blazer over it so it's not noticeable. And there's other times where I'm just perfectly okay with having them noticeable, and I've gotten more and more okay with it in most settings. I have noticeable nipple piercings, and I don't think it's unprofessional, but I could see how it could be seen as that. And the main thing is, like, you have to adjust for yourself because your tops aren't going to look the same. If you don't wear a bra and you have your nipples pierced, your tops aren't going to look the same as they did before. Your nipples aren't going to look the same. You're not going to look the same without a top on. Everything is going to be different looks-wise, just like when you change a haircut. But the problem is, with a haircut, you can change it again. You change it up all the time. But a nipple piercing, it's going to stay there every single day. You're not just going to take it out the day that you decide you don't want to wear it with that outfit. It is something you are wearing all the time. And I think that's a good thing in a way because it's a little accessory that always goes with you. And I personally love my boobs so much more when I am topless. Now I talked about the pros. I talked about them maybe a little too personally in the beginning. I talked about the cons. And in the end, why did I decide to get them? Why do I deal with the cons of almost having my nipple piercing ripped out or dealing with cleaning it all the time and the high maintenance and the rejecting and all this other things that go with it? Why were the pros worth it to me personally? And a lot of it honestly comes from insecurity. I grew up hating my boobs. I grew up hating the size of my chest, thinking that I had the smallest boobs in the whole entire world, having guys make fun of me for the size of my boobs, even though I have grown up and learned that men love the size of my boobs. But either way, it was definitely a huge insecurity for me, and I wanted something that made me feel comfortable in my own skin more than I was. And the only things that I could really think of to make me feel more secure were getting implants and getting nipple piercings. And well, one is a hell of a lot cheaper than the other, and that is definitely getting them pierced. I'm not at the point in my life where I feel comfortable spending that much money on something that I don't need, and so that is why I decided to get my nipples pierced. I was a lot younger. I think I was 18. I say a lot younger. I'm only 22, and it's weird saying 22 because I feel like I'm still 21 because of a COVID birthday. But either way, it was one of those things that I was younger. I wasn't able to get implants. I still do want to get them someday. But I wanted to get the nipple piercings to feel more comfortable in my own skin, feel more comfortable being topless in front of someone else. And oh my goodness, this started the cycle of me being so much more comfortable in my own skin. I think it was just that little push I needed, that little accessory that made me feel better on days where I'm not feeling as good. It's like putting makeup on your face when you're feeling insecure. It doesn't really change who you are. It just makes you feel more comfortable in who you are. It enhances what you already have. And that's what I feel like nipple piercings did for me, and I knew they were gonna do for me. I just knew the confidence boost that I would feel. I don't know why. I just knew it. I knew it hearing from other people. I knew that having that little extra jewelry accessory, that little visual interest beyond my boobs, because I felt like them being so small, I felt like they weren't their own visual exciter. They weren't their own like little ooh, ooh, ooh type of thing, and having the piercing added to it. It really does bring that excitement, that appeal interest to a lot of people. Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how many guys get excited by the fact that I have nipple piercings. It's very funny, and I don't know how it feels, not to be TMI, I don't know how it feels to suck on them with a nipple piercing there. It's like metal. But either way, I love them. I do wonder though, because I didn't talk about this in the cons, and I wonder this because I don't live somewhere that's really cold anymore. And in general, breasts do stay warmer. I'm not as much on men, but women especially, they do stay warmer. So I wonder if in colder areas, if the piercing would feel cold. Because sometimes with my industrial bar, when it was freezing outside and I wasn't wearing like a hat or earmuffs or something, I would feel like the cold metal. And I'm wondering if you would feel that with your nipple piercings. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask someone that lives in the cold. I haven't been cold enough to know that, but I'm pretty sure women, your breasts would stay warm enough, especially if they're in a bra and a shirt and all that. It was just when it was exposed to the air that the bar felt cold, so I think you'll be fine. But either way, that was a random thought that popped in my head. But for me, it really mainly was a self-confidence booster, so I hope that if you are going into this and wanting a nipple piercing for the same reason that it does the same thing for you. It's not the only thing that helped me in my journey to be more self-confident in my own body, but it was a huge helper. And yes, you can get that without having this. But why does it matter? If it's something you already want, it's great if it has that added benefit of being a self-esteem booster. And then the other big thing I think for me as a self-esteem booster when it came to my breasts was going bra-free and no longer wearing a bra. Oddly enough, I used to use that to hide it and make myself feel more comfortable in my own body, but it made me feel less and less comfortable in my own body and notice my boobs more and more in the wrong ways. And if you want to watch the video on me going bra-free, I will link it down below. I talk a lot about that self-confidence booster aspect of going bra-free, but the nipple piercings was another huge one for me. And the other reason why I kind of decided to get them is really just because I love piercings. I love body modifications. I have a large tattoo. I don't know if any of you guys know that, because if you don't watch my vlogs or you don't like see like Instagram, even my Instagram I don't post it that much, but I have a huge tattoo down my ribs. I love it, but point is, if that doesn't show it to you that I love body modification, I don't know what else would. And yes, I say body modification, but I feel like when a lot of people hear that word, they think of like horns on their heads or splitting their tongue or some like more intense things. But nipple piercings and piercings in general are definitely fun body modifications. You don't have to keep them forever. It's not permanent like breast implants. It's temporary. You can take them out someday if you don't want them anymore. If you don't want to deal with them, take them out. Let them heal. Pierce them again. It's like you have so many options and it's just so fun, and I felt like it was a fun aspect to add to my body beyond what my body already had naturally. And then the other thing that's a little bit more personal and a little bit less PG is the fact that I wanted a benefit that I didn't get from it. And that is that a lot of people said getting their nipples pierced made their nipples more sensitive. And I have very, very not sensitive nipples. Like, I don't feel the sensation like most people do when it comes to their nipples. And I thought maybe getting them pierced that I would also get that added sensitivity factor that I've heard other people talk about. Now, I'm not sure if you will get that added sensitivity, if that's something you were looking for, but I personally didn't get them. I don't feel my nipples as much as I didn't feel my nipples before I got them pierced. The only time I have added sensitivity is when they get pulled and stuck on something. I'm like, but that's not exactly the sensitivity I was looking for, but it didn't make them less sensitive either, so it's not like it added or took away from the sensitivity, so I'm completely happy with them for the other positive aspects of it. Now, whether you are still considering getting a nipple piercing, already have one, or you're never getting one, and maybe I played a part in that decision, my bad. I hope you learned a few things and were entertained by this. I would really, really appreciate it. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below to join the crazy fam if you haven't already. I am really trying to get to 500 subscribers and then 1,000 subscribers and keep growing this small family I have here. And I'd appreciate your help in that because I love doing this. I love posting new videos and helping you figure out adulting. I post one every single Wednesday where I go over everything from online dating to attempting to be a sugar baby in the past to apartment hunting, budgeting, everything in between to help you learn from my own experiences. I want to help you out with all that. So feel free to hit that bell down below to be notified when I post a new video. It's every single Wednesday and then I post vlogs every Monday and Friday. And I hope you have a great rest of your morning, evening, night, whatever it is for you crazy fam. I'll see you soon.